Here, good thing I didn't forget that. And I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint, guys. I'm really excited about this one. I had so much fun putting this together because it let me really review, which was nice. It's been a while since oh, hold on. How do I make it into a slide? Yes, Karina and Winking, you get to see my amazing technological skills. There are not zero skills. All right. Perfect. So reflexes 101, right? Okay, let me put this up top. What are the primitive reflexes, right? So important to know, they're involuntary, right? We do not do this cognitively. It happens all in its own. Physical reactions to external or internal stimuli acting on our bodies. Reflexes are linked to specialized neural pathways that allow us to act upon signals before they reach the brain, meaning we can react quickly to important environmental cues without the need for conscious thought. So that's really important, right? That's what a reflex is. It's no conscious thought. We are reacting quickly. It's kind of like when you touch something hot, right? Your hand moves before you've even registered the pain. The primary purpose is to help babies eat, learn, and interact with the world around them from the first moment they're born. Okay, so what's really cool, I didn't know this until I had a baby, but if you lay a baby down on your tummy, they will move like this and find the breast all on their own. It is amazing, right? Brand new, brand new. It is the coolest thing. So all of these reflexes serve an amazing purpose. They typically disappear within the first year of life. Okay, that's also very important to know. And if they persist,
oh yeah, sorry, I can't. When they look for the breast, is that the rooting reflex, or is it the
rooting
different?
reflex is when we just go like this, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
It will automatically
they
turn. Exactly, and that's for the first, I believe, month and a half, possibly two. I'd have to double check. I didn't cover all the reflexes today, guys.
Oh yeah,
okay,
I know there's a lot.
That's beyond our scope of, as it is. I'm sure this is going to be 2 or 3 hour long sessions, right? Like there turns out to be a lot of stuff. But the rooting reflex is super cool. Same with the palmar reflex, right? Like when you put something in and it closes right away, it's so fun. And I mean, it's hard. You can't get your hand out of there. Okay, you really want your finger back, and it's not coming back. And there are still some kids who still have that grasp reflex, which is definitely going to impact their ability to use a pencil, right? So there's all these layers, okay? And so we'll touch on some of the other stuff, as needed, but I'm going to cover the main postural ones today. Hold on, Laura just said she was coming on, so I want to see if I can see where she would be. Oh, she didn't sign on yet. Okay. And then I'm going to cover the Moro and the fear paralysis, which are really, really important for all the sensory pieces and for self-regulation. If these, hold on, let me move the thing. So if these reflexes persist beyond a normal developmental timeline, okay, the child may experience clumsiness, motor difficulties, and restlessness, right? These are like the basic ones. We also have to think of anything self-regulation wise that could be affecting them. And what is integration? That's important, right? So reflex integration refers to the inhibition by higher centers of neurological control, which modify the reflex in such a way that the pattern of response is no longer stereotypical. So basically it is now having motor and cognitive control over our body to inhibit that reflex, right? It no longer does its job because it now has become a motor action, right? Oh, sorry, that we can control, kind of like crawling or jumping or walking or any of these important things. The reflex doesn't disappear. That's really important to know. So even though we might integrate a reflex at one or multiple points in a life, it can reactivate under stress or during activities requiring great strength. Okay, so a good example, let me just see if she's on. The Moro reflex is our startle reflex. We're going to talk about that later. But my stepdaughter, right, so she's 15 now, but she had an active Moro reflex when I met her, and we integrated it and went away and things were going really well. And then her mom and stepdad got divorced 2 years ago. Like that's all going on now. Hold on, let me admit Laura. Let's see that it's going to work. Perfect. All right, she's on. So it was well integrated, and then this huge moment of stress in her life happened, right? And now it came back, which I find really incredible. So it was really well integrated, but now if you walk up the stairs, right, and her bedroom is right at the top of the stairs, and she'll turn around, and I don't stomp like the rest of my family. I walk up the stair like a nice normal person. And so you can't hear me coming, and she'll turn around and see me be like, oh, Steph, you scared me, right? And the number of times she says, you scared me, it happens a lot. right? And it's just because I'm walking around like normal, or I turn a light on and she's not expecting it. So she startles much easier than she should at her age. So the Moro reflex is still quite active. When these reflexes do not integrate, they may interfere with the child's development of more advanced motor skills. Why do I keep doing that? Which in turn, notice my really great skills, everybody, sorry. So this in turn may impact occupational performance. Okay, so the more advanced motor skills is where we're being touched with this, okay, guys, which is why we end up considering it, and we're going to see some of the examples of motor skills that are impacted by the reflexes, the different ones, and which one you're going to see and what it could mean. Because a lot of these have tests that we would do specifically to see how to confirm that it is still active, but you're going to really notice it and decide to test it because of what you see in practice, in movement, in play, right? There's tons of body positions that are very stereotypical of kids with these reflexes, and you'll see them in play, and then your brain should be triggered. You need to check those reflexes, right? It's not going to be checked with every single person. We're going to go into more detail. So reflex checklist. So hold on, I have to close this down and just show. It was way too big for me to actually put in the PowerPoint. So I'm going to stop this share, and then I will share a new document. Okay. So
Hi, sorry I came late.
Oh, that's okay. I just wasn't sure if you remembered we switched the day, so I wanted to send you a quick message.
I forgot. Sorry, carry on.
It's all good. Okay, so this is a checklist that I can send to everybody. I also have it broken into two, okay? The facilitator reflex checklist. So Liz Jones Toomey, you guys are going to hear more about her, and Bloomberg. So Harold Bloomberg is the one who created Bloomberg Rhythmic Movement Training, right? He passed away this past June, I believe. And Liz Toomey, you're going to see some videos that she's done. She's a teacher, actually, who has an extensive training in reflex integration and uses it in her classes. It's really cool. She makes amazing videos. So they created this for therapists, and there's also a part for parents. So what I'm going to do when sending this to you is very highly suggest that you read through it, right? So the fear paralysis reflex. These are the reactions to suggest the reflex is retained or active, right? Low tolerance to stress, senses oversensitive, sensitive to smell of smoke, perfume, coffee, vestibular difficulties. Vestibular difficulties are pretty much everywhere, just so you know. Insecure/anxious, motion sickness. They find it difficult to make eye contact, tense neck muscles, obsessive compulsive behaviors, elective mutism or selective mutism. It depends on who you're talking to. Shallow breathing, poor sleep routine, doesn't like change, and needs large personal territory or very small spaces, right? They like to get into those tight, squishy spaces.
Small questions. Can you say at what age they're supposed to have lost these reflexes?
I'll find a document that lists everything. All of it should be under the age of 1. Like before a child is 1, all of it should be fully integrated.
Okay.
Okay.
Like so we should check this in all our kiddos, kind of.
Well, what I would do is keep in mind these things. The most typical ones are the ones I'm going to cover today. Okay. Like we'll start covering today. I haven't added slides yet for the spinal galant or those ones, but I most likely will. We're not going to get through all of them today anyway. The checklist here, right, is the same that we send to the parents, right? So if I scroll down to show you, we would send this to the parents, okay? And the parents, what they would do is they'd go through it and they'd read, and they would maybe highlight or check off what they consider something that their child is struggling with. And it will allow you to see where you should focus your attention. Because if you've got a number of things checked off in the fear paralysis, then you need to test for that, right? That's a really good indicator that is likely still there. Same with the Moro hand reflex, any of these ones here, it'll guide your interest. Okay, that's what's really important. And for you to know and look for these things too, right? ATNR, we're going to talk tons about that one, right? Poor reading skills, poor memory, inability to follow a line, getting lost on a line, losing a place in text. So I'm going to go into each of these later. I just wanted to show this document to you because I think it's really important that you have access to it. The rhythmic, yes.
Oh, sorry. At which point do we give this to the parents? Is it like part of their initial,
I don't send it in the initial battery of stuff that I send because it's not relevant for every single child, right? So
gotcha.
Almost all of them will get a sensory profile. and a parent questionnaire. And then if it's anybody who we think has DCD, we'll send a DCDQ. If we think
Yep.
that, excuse me, a child might score well on the standardized testing, we can always then give them the ABAS, right? The behavioral one, which it looks at function, because some kids will score really well on the BOT or the movement ABC, but they are struggling in real life. So it's really hard to show that dynamic. So by having a
Gotcha.
functional questionnaire, the parents will fill that out, and then you often see that they score below what's expected for their age. So then you can make the very true statement, although they score within the average range in one-on-one situations, right? When functionally using these skills, they are unable in A, B, C, D categories, right? And it lists all of them. I recently did
Gotcha.
that for a kiddo that I have on the spectrum, super high functioning, started grade 7 this year, and they reached out and needed an update for the report. And so I was able to do this over Zoom in, interview style, but I also had them refill in a sensory profile, and I had them do the ABAS. And I didn't even bother doing standardized testing because this kid would have scored very well, right? He hates sports.
Mm.
However, he's really good. He's a kid who is vestibular plus, right? He seeks it all the time. But he has terrible social understanding, right? He cannot function in a classroom without putting things in place to help him. Self-regulation is awful. There's so many little things that get in the way for him. So he scored really low on the ABAS, right? Which allowed me to then show that although he's, doing okay in a lot of ways, he's really not independent and able to function without support. And that's what we need to prove both to the school and to the government. Okay, so this is another one of those checklists that we have kind of in our pocket. So maybe we've done our standardized testing and we're like, they're scoring pretty well, right? There's something there that's bothering you, that's not working out, or you have some ideas because you've seen some of these things, then send it off to the parents. If you know it's a parent who's not really going to understand this, the way you explain the reflexes, right? Because you probably have seen it in the way they move, but they won't get that. They might question it. By sending them the checklist and having them fill it out, then they're going to see the reflections in what they see daily, right? Which gives you an extra kind of, there's a word I'm looking for, hold on, word retrieval of fatigue, evidence, an extra piece of evidence to show what you're trying to work on. Okay, so I will send this out to everybody. This one here, the exercises to integrate the reflex. These are usually some activities that are maybe part of everyday life, which I'm going to cover some of them today, as well as some of the rhythmic movement activities. Okay, so a number of us have done the rhythmic movement training. We can teach you a good number of them. Oh, excuse me. So obviously I can't do them all in person now. I have some videos that I will share with you for Moro and STNR, so we can get going on those right away. Some I'll also be able to show you over video. But if there's any that we can't touch on or that you're not sure of, you're going to ask somebody who is trained at your location to be able to show it to you on your person.
Rhythmic movement is to drop the reflexes that are not yet integrated.
That's exactly it. We want to integrate them, right? And they often imitate movements that babies make, right? Which sounds almost silly, but the thing is that babies do this in order to integrate the movements. And I will try to find some video of Max, because Ben hasn't hit all of them yet. But I have videos of Max doing the rocking back and forth, STNR rocking in his crib, just chilling out, right? And I caught him doing it. I was like, yeah, right, way to go, buddy. You're so smart. And it's just because they automatically do it. All babies will lie on their back and rock, right? They're all going to go on their tummy and they lift their bum up and down and they rock side to side like this. They all put their bodies in these movements and they repeat them over and over rhythmically because that is how they are learning to integrate the movements. So it is these movements that go into the pattern of the reflex, which allows you to then have motoric control over it, right? Cognitive motor control. It's no longer a reflex.
If you have a kiddo that you know has a few reflexes, like I was at that point where I was kind of neglecting to, I was like not intervening on reflex kind of yet, but I know that I have some kiddos that really don't have reflex that are integrated.
Mm-hmm.
Is that gonna help? Is it gonna like impede my interventions if I don't tackle that?
I'm so happy you asked that question. So there's the rhythmic movement training, which targets very specifically each and every reflex. But there are a ton of regular activities that we do in play already that also integrate the reflexes, right? So a lot of the games that you do already are likely working on at least the postural reflexes without you even realizing it. That's what's so cool about it, because I didn't do reflex integration for the first 5 years of my practice, right? I didn't have the knowledge. I wasn't aware, I wasn't looking into it, and yet my kids improved. I had kids who graduated and did well. So, and looking back, right, I know that they had reflexes now. And I even have one video to show you, because it was just as I was getting into reflexes, and it's one of the reasons I got into reflexes, because I saw it and I looked up why he might be doing this, and it brought me to the STNR reflex. So a bunch of the typical scooter board, swing, postural exercises that we do on a daily basis with our kids also integrate the tonic or postural reflexes. And then we'll talk more about the Moro and the fear paralysis, because those ones we really do need to do a little bit more specific work on it. Excellent question, Laura. Thank you.
I want to interrupt, but I had the same question as Laura like a week ago. I was like, is it only the specific ones? And I don't know if this is in the orientation USB that everyone has access to, but this chapter, the reflexes, is the PDF. Okay, I read this, Laura, and like, oh my gosh, I'm already doing it.
That's this book, guys. I have it. I brought it out from my basement to show you guys. That's in this book. Okay. So really cool book. I can see Karina looking, going, how do I get this book? I see that face. So I have it and I can lend it, but it has to come back. I had to buy it used. They no longer make it new. Like I literally ordered on Amazon used and had it shipped to the US. Like it was a whole big thing. So I have to send to you guys the reflex checklist. I'm just going to write it down because otherwise I'll forget. So checklist and the reflex chapter, because so many of the games that we play already are totally dealing with it, right? That's why that's pretty much what the main purpose of me wanting to bring home that idea in these presentations. So I'm going to introduce some of the rhythmic movement stuff, but I want you more to consider the games that you're already doing to touch on vestibular, tactile, visual, hand-eye coordination, all that stuff. A lot of it's already working those. That is what is so cool about reflexes and sensory and as the foundation of that house, because they both build on each other, right? And a baby is learning through all the sensory motor stuff. That's their main job, right? That and eating and pooping, right? And we force them to sleep, basically, is where we're at on that one. But the movement that they do, this excessive movement, is integrating these reflexes and developing their motor skills. Okay, it's super cool stuff. Go back to my PowerPoint. All right. So I found this on our Tools to Grow website, guys. It's super interesting, right? I downloaded it, so I will also send all the Tools to Grow stuff that I downloaded. I didn't realize they had a bunch of stuff on reflexes. So I liked this because this deals with the three main postural reflexes that we typically see, right? And we're going to go into each of these. This is just something I will send that you guys will be able to read over, and you can always check back in if you're not sure. Okay, but if I go to the next one, so we'll talk ATNR. Asymmetrical tonic neck reflex, right? Fencer's pose. So you can see it with the baby. When they turn their head, their arm goes out this way and this arm goes back. You often see that very, very useful for breastfeeding, right? Because the baby's going to turn their head towards the breast. This arm is going to go under, and this hand will usually come and just rest on the breast. It's really cool. The body is amazing, guys. It happens automatically, right? The onset is usually quite quick, between 0 to 2 months, and it's fully integrated between 4 to 6 months of age. If it is, you're going to see it by the rotation of the head, right? The response, arm and leg on the jaw side, right? As in the jaw side where it's pointing to, they will extend, right? And arm and leg on the skull side back here, they're going to flex. And you'll see it with the leg as well. The importance for baby, right? Assist with early hand or eye-hand regard, provides vestibular stimulation, and changes the distribution of muscle tone. Every single baby that I know personally, I have a picture of them or have had somebody call me and be like, this is what you talk about, right? Of them lying in their bed, sleeping like this, all of them. Ben was doing that this morning, right? Just hanging in that position. And then they turn their head and just, and they all, when they look with their hands, right? It brings their hand to whatever they're looking at. It's really cool. So significance on early development if it persists. So may impair ability to roll. Use hands smoothly together at midline. Okay, poor visual regard for objects that they have in their hands, right? Objects that are being held. Poor balance. It may impair creeping or crawling. Baby loses balance and or falls when he rotates his head from midline, and very frustrating and causes excessive fatigue, right? Imagine you're in 4-point right? And you really want to crawl forward, but there's a really cool toy over here and you look over here and your arm moves and then you face plant, right? How frustrating is that? So a lot of kids who still have reflexes integrated, right, are going to avoid these movements that they can't do. They're little mini geniuses, okay? So they're going to butt scoot instead, right? Or they'll roll to get everywhere they're going. They're amazingly crafty in getting where they want to go. So anytime we're not in an expected typical movement pattern for an infant or a toddler, we want to kind of really think about the reflexes, because what has prevented us from doing that activity? Okay, so here is I just took a snapshot from that parent questionnaire, right? I like that it lists all of these things here, because it's more than just what you see in a baby, right? Those are the early ones. This is when you see preschool to school age children. The ATNR is often kind of thrown in there with dyslexia, or kids who really struggle with reading, inability to follow a line, right? Losing place in a text. Blurred and double images, as the two eyes cannot work together for binocular vision. Poor eye-hand coordination, messy eater, poor writing and copying. So any of our handwriting kids, right? We want to consider this. They frequently see a great discrepancy between verbal expression and written expression, right? So many of us have evaluated kids that, boy, can they ever talk, right? They can talk forever. And they can probably do their dictate verbally, but they can't write it down, right? Or what they write seems like a very poor representation of what you know they could tell you, but it's because writing is too hard. Reversals, letters and numbers, right? Difficulty with spelling and grammar and context both in reading and writing, poor left and right knowledge, difficulty swimming, especially breaststroke, but poor splashy rolling style with the crawl. This is actually important, and Ariana's not here, but I'm hoping she'll watch this. So Ariana, this is for one of your kiddos, your teenager, that we want to consider this. Poor running, skiing, rollerblading, clumsy rather than gliding movement, right, when they're walking or moving. Confusion with tens and units, so poor sequential skills, poor at arithmetic skills, difficulty following multiple instructions. So there's a lot of stuff in this list, guys, right? And you're likely not going to have all of them, but some of them, and that's what we're going to look at, okay, when you're doing your evaluation or when you're in your session.
Quick question. You know, in the clinical observation, when they talk about Schiller's test.
Yep.
Is that what it tests?
That's exactly what it tests. So
it's like essentially the ATNR test. It's just called something else.
Exactly. We're going to get there. It's one of the tests.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's exactly where you should be going, right? I'm very pleased because you're already hitting up the knowledge that you have and putting it together. That's perfect. So this sheet here, right, rhythmic movement training, we have these at the clinic. Every single reflex that we can work on has a sheet like this in a folder. So you can ask any of the therapists at Pointe Claire or Outremont where they could be located. And on the front, you'll see it. They all look like this. They have a way to check it, and then they have rhythmic movements and other movements to integrate it. On the back of it, you're going to see a list of things that we might observe, similar to the form that I just showed you, as well as some other games and activities that you can use to integrate the reflexes. So often when I give exercises to the family, I will photocopy the front and back and give it to them, because I want them to look, I want them to read through what is expected, what they might be seeing at home. I find that they tend to be more at ease doing it that way, right? They buy in a bit quicker. So checking the ATNR right here, stand with feet together, arms extended, eyes closed, slowly turn head side to side. So this is the Schindler's arm extension test. Okay, so I didn't put a video just because you're all going to be able to see it in the Erna Blanche clinical observation video, right? So she does a really nice job of it. But basically your arms are going to be straight out, okay? That you're going to ask the child, and then I often take the opportunity as well to push down and have them resist against me just to make sure that they can. I can do up, you can push out, and you can push this way, right? Having them resist against you. But then I have them stay and then they close their eyes and I'm behind, okay? And I'm gonna lightly hold their head and I'm gonna slowly turn their head side to side. And ideally, the arms will stay steady and the head will just swivel nicely like this. Okay, I did this recently for a kiddo. I couldn't move his head. I mean, I really couldn't move his head. I pushed really hard and he was so stuck that he refused to move it. Another kiddo, when you do it, right, they'll turn their head, but maybe their arm's gonna go with them, right? And they'll go the other way too. So their whole body sways, or sometimes their arms start to drop. Those are often indicators of the STNR. Sometimes you'll see, sorry, ATNR. Sometimes what you'll see is one side will be more affected than the other, and that can happen, right? So maybe they move really a lot on the right side, but very little on the left. They have nice fluidity. Okay, so both tension in the head movement or sway in the arms, or the arms moving a little bit, the arms dropping, those are the things you're looking for. I find that to be the easiest one to do. Anytime we do eye tracking across midline, right? So a lot of us are going to do that when we do our ocular motor. Again, the clinical observations video is going to show that to you, okay? Hugely important, the ocular motor stuff. It's got links to vestibular, it's got links to hand-eye coordination, midline crossing, and reflexes. It's so crazy how many of our kids can't track smoothly across midline. You can do these in kneeling and supine as well, right? I've always just done it in standing unless it's a really young kid, right? Or a child with such terrible balance that when they close their eyes, they fall down or are uncomfortable, right? Then I'll do it in a different position. So the exercises here that we see, we're not going to really cover these today, guys. One of the reasons is that level 3, so rhythmic movement training has level 1, level 2, and level 3. Most of us have all done level 1 and 2. Level 3 is when they really talk about the ATNR. And the reason for that is that it's a higher level when affecting your learning, right? So a lot of kids with learning disabilities will present with an ATNR that is not integrated. So I've never done that course. They offered it just as I gave birth to Max, so that didn't happen. I considered it, mind you, but it was not a good idea, and so I didn't go. And in the end, they ended up rescheduling, so none of our team was able to go. Okay.
Is there something else we can do?
Yep. I'm getting there.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. So the testing, right? We just went over that. So here are some videos that we're going to watch. So I have to show. So I can't figure out how to embed things and click on them and then be able to go right there, right? Somebody will show me one day, but that was not in my abilities today, everybody. So let's go to the first video. Okay. Share. And I'll send you guys all of these links too, okay? They're pretty easy to find. Oh, hold on. We lost Alexia. I shared the wrong thing. Perfect. Alexia, you're back on?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you. Sorry.
perfect. That's okay. I'm glad you texted because I can't see everybody right on the side. So if people drop away, I just assume they move lower on the totem pole. Okay, so Tuesdays with Toomey. These are really cool. You can look them up. You can follow her on Facebook. She has tons of awesome videos that she has done. We're not going to watch the whole 9 minutes. I want to introduce this to you and then I'll send it to you to watch on your own. Okay, I think so that you can hear it.
Hi, I'm Liz Jones-Toomey. Welcome to Tuesday with Toomey. I'm here with my friend Ben, and we're going to show you some things that will help you with reading and writing. So your ability to cross your midline to go from left to right when you're reading, also when you're riding a bike. Say you're up here, you're riding a bicycle. So put your hands up here on the riding a bike. If you were to turn your head to look over here, you don't want your whole body turning. So you want to be able to have your head turn without your hands having to be incorporated. Okay, so do we want to show some of the movements for the ATNR? Yep. Okay, so let's show sliding on that first. So head here. And this is a work based on Dr. Harold Lomberg that we have been doing his work. And Ben is a pro at these movements. So, and also Ben created a really cool game. Okay, so we're going to show sliding on the back. So hands are at the side. You got more bras up here. Okay, so we're going to do tracking. ATNR helps with developing binocular vision. Okay, that freaked me out a little bit, huh? Often you see people who might have an ATNR that's active. When they lay on a table or on their bed, you'll notice they lay on a real angle. Okay, so you start sliding. Yeah, so pushing with your feet. Good. And we are going to track, let's take some different objects. I have a variety of different pens. So we're going to, the goal is that you want the child to be turning their head themselves. Ah, he's coming up. Now, Ben Ben has really been working on sliding on the back, which means his spinal glot, if the spinal glot was active, this would be a real challenge. So he's sliding on the back and we're just tracking. This helps with binocular vision. We're gonna do sliding on the back. So first of all, I would start doing this passive. So is it okay if I just straighten your body for a minute? Often here, we're just gonna straighten your head that way. There we go. Often when we have an active ATNR, when they're laying down, you'll notice they'll be a little crooked. Good job, good modeling for us. So I'm gonna start with doing this passively first. So I can put my hands here and then gently, is it okay if we just have your hands to the side? I'll just make sure. I could gently go this way, or I could pull from behind. Which way would you prefer? This way? Okay. So I'm looking for movement in the, there we go, in the chest and neck. Ben's been doing this a while, he's a pro. So this is doing this passively. And so what we're doing is we are stimulating the cerebellum. This gives a lot of vestibular stimulation, so you don't want to go too much with this. Okay, so Ben's been doing this for a while. If he had an active spinal glot or spinal parese, this would be very challenging to do. But he has worked on that, and that's really great. So you tell me when you want to do this on your own. He's ready? Okay. So he's going to go back and forth. So just get a nice rhythm. Okay. And then you are going to track an object back and forth. Okay. So we did this last week, and you could see when Ben did this, his legs were really wide apart. So now he has his legs together. Okay, you go
Notice the eye
back and forth.
rubbing? He's working
And
really
you're just
hard.
going to follow this object, this really good piece of grass. And we're looking up. Great job. Important that he's turning his neck side to side. Good job. If it's a challenge, now I can notice a lot of recruitment in the shoulders and the hands. That could perhaps integrate some other reflexes I want to work with. If this was a challenge, I could have someone else pulling from or pushing from the feet as well, helping with sliding on the back. So that's that movement. Okay.
Do you guys want me to keep going, or would you rather watch this on your own? I'm open to either.
You could watch this. It's better to get through kind of a bit more.
Yeah, I think we're going
So
to get
interesting.
I'll send this to you because I have another ATNR one to show you as well. Okay. So I'll send everybody these links.
She said they said that it's not in, it's active if they can't lie down straight. Is that while they're on their back?
Yeah.
Or on the back? Okay.
Yeah. Although I would imagine also in prone. Right? Because it's still active. And when you're in prone, usually you are turning your head from one side to the other. So we might see a nice crooked line. It'll be interesting to watch your kids when you do the steamroller and see who can lie straight and who can't.
Oh, yeah.
Is this also the one, I think, it might not be this one. Emilie Bourassa was telling me that there is a reflex, I believe it's this one, but I'm not sure, that is really easy to see on the, not on the platform swing, because when they're on their stomach and they reach out, like we see them holding that position of one leg out and one arm out.
Exactly. So it's going to be the
This
STNR.
is the one?
Both
okay.
STNR, like the symmetrical tonic neck reflex, is the one I see the most on that swing. But if you've got a child either on their tummy or in 4-point kneeling and you're putting the animals or the bean bags or the rings, whatever it is that they're looking for on the side of the glider swing, and they have to turn their head to look, then you will see the ATNR, right? You'll see if they're able to do it. You'll see if they collapse into the movement. So a kid who struggles with any of those games, you want to go towards thinking at least about acknowledging the possibility of one of the tonic neck reflexes. All right, so this is another example. Okay, the robot. So this one I had done with a lot of kids actually.
Asymmetrical tonic neck reflex, also known as ATNR. When this reflex is not integrated, some functional problems could be delays in motor milestones, delayed eye-hand coordination, difficulty crossing midline with eyes and hands, and visual perceptual difficulties. The integration exercise for this is called the robot. The child will lay on her stomach with her head facing to the right. First, she will bring her right leg up until it is bent, and then bring her right arm up until it is also bent. Then the child will turn her head to the left, straighten out the arm, straighten out the leg, pause for 5 to 10 seconds. Then she will move her left leg up until it is bent, and her left arm up until it is also bent. She's going to turn her head to the other side and slowly straighten out her arm and her leg, and pause for 5 to 10 seconds. This is one cycle. Complete 3 cycles of this per day for 1 month. Your child may need some help getting into this position.
Okay, so I'll replay to show you guys. Let me plug it back in so you can hear me. Okay, so what's really is that, I think I can turn the volume off so it doesn't kill me. The reason that we want to be in this position, can anybody tell me why they think that this position works? Any thoughts on that?
You mean in prone?
Yeah, like why would we want the arm bent and the leg bent on this side?
Well, because normally if you have a retained one, then your head's going to move on one side, and so you want to have that coordination to prevent that move, the head and hand moving from the opposite side.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going into the opposite side movement. So normally when your head is looking, your arm is straight and your leg is straight, right? Fully extended. Here, you're looking and you're putting your arm bent and you're putting your leg bent. Okay, so we are basically actively
Preventing
fighting. Exactly.
Yeah.
We are doing the opposite movement that your body is reflexively trying to do. So she did it very well. Okay, if we have a child with an ATNR, they're not going to be so smooth in this. It is something I sometimes use as a test activity as well, right? Because I'll say, can you do this? And you'll watch them do it. And the parent's like, what is happening, right? And they're doing the other arm and the other leg, and they have it is not coordinated at all. They cannot make it work. That is a very good indication that ATNR is still active. And then we do what she showed you, right? By doing the hands-on movements to help them get into it. Or you do the verbal coaching, right? Leg up, arm up, turn, head, and you really go slowly, step by step by step. I looked through a bunch of my videos today. I didn't have a good one of this, so I unfortunately don't have it to share with you, but this was a good one that I found. In younger kids, so I just got permission to show you a video. I spent some time today emailing a bunch of parents to see if I have permission to show these videos that I have. So let me open this one. This is when I was evaluating a 3-year-old. Share screen. Okay, so this is using one of the tests. See how skinny I was before I had kids, guys? I saw this today and I was like, oh my God. And so the test that we're doing here is the, oh my gosh, Ganji-Burke. So we have it at Point Claire. It is a test of sensory integration for toddlers, right, and young children. And so we're gonna watch this guy, okay? And I want you to just watch the movements, right? So he is supposed to keep his legs crossed. Okay, so we'll go back to the beginning and you'll see legs are crossed. He's supposed to hold with 2 hands, holding on to the rolling pin, and then he needs to hit the ball. Okay, but watch what happens. Ah, there goes that leg. Right, and so I'm readjusting him. I'm telling him to hit it with the middle of his, beautiful, but see that leg come up? No problem in the middle. As soon as we go to this side, oh, he's going right into that compensatory movement. We correct him, and that opposite side comes right up, right? He cannot stabilize. Oh, look at, hello, I moved my legs, right? His whole body got disorganized. So remind him again, get organized. I'm gonna swing the bat at you. I'm a little scared. So 2 hands, right? And we go back. And as soon as he's in the middle, he can do it. And then the leg goes right back up. Isn't that cool? Right? So just by
This is
seeing. Sorry, go ahead.
fascinating. Sorry.
Yeah, right? I'm so glad I got this on video. Mom was videotaping it for me. I was like, this is great. Right? And now he's about to do something else. Say what?
Because he's extending his arm, that the leg also extends, right?
Exactly, because his head's turning, right? Whichever way it's going, he cannot keep that position. He has not enough stability, so his whole body will either go into extension, right? Or the other leg goes up. He cannot keep a nice stable position. So for me, ATNR is definitely active here in this video, right? I'm also concerned about the STNR, but it's not a direct for sure link with this one, right? Because I'm not seeing him move his head up and down. So I can't make that decision. I have some really cool videos. And if you have permission from the parents and you know it's a kid that is gonna have some of this stuff, don't hesitate to take video. Most parents are really okay with it. And I've got a database that I'm putting together. So please share with me if we have parent permission, and we can always ask them. Videos are also really good if you can get it without the child's face showing, right? Like this one is showing it, but I have parent permission. But parents are much quicker to give permission if the child's face isn't visible, right? So if it's from behind or the side and it's not like a full face. And there are ways to like cover the face in a video. I just don't know about them. Okay, let's go back to my PowerPoint. So I will share these ones with you guys. And now we'll go to STNR. Okay, any questions specifically about ATNR now that we're done that one? Holy, look at that. We did 50 minutes, well, 40 minutes roughly, just a one. We'll do an STNR before we quit for today. Okay, so symmetrical tonic neck reflex. This one I see all the time. I just see it pop up all over the place. The onset is 4 to 6 months, right? And then integration is between 8 and 12 months. This is actually what allows, sorry, I'm just gonna talk about it. I should not skip ahead. Flexion and extension of the head and the neck is how we stimulate this reflex. The response is with the neck flexion, the upper extremities will flex and the lower extremities will extend, right? With neck extension, which is what we see here, the upper extremities will extend and the lower extremities will flex. Okay, so this right here, you're gonna see kids do this all the time now that you've been aware of it. And you'll be like, oh, STNR position, right? It's automatic. You're gonna have this thought when you see this position. And what they mean by when the neck flexes, right? When it bends down, you're going to see that the arms bend and the legs go straight. So it almost be as if you're lying down. The importance for baby. So the STNR assists in the development of bilateral patterns of body movement, allows the child to move up against gravity and assume quadruped, right? 4-point position. Integrates as child begins to crawl and can lift the butt from the heels without flexing the neck. Integrated when rocking back and forth on hands and knees. This is how we get to crawling, guys. It's so cool. So it is equally worrisome if it doesn't develop. And that's another thing to consider, okay? If you're looking at little babies who are butt scooting, because we see that a lot and we get referred for that a lot. A lot of parents are like, oh, they'll get there eventually. But if we miss crawling completely, I am concerned, right? Because we haven't developed that bilateral coordination or that asymmetrical pattern, right? Which is super important for all sorts of development stuff later on. Significance on early development if it persists. So it interferes with advanced reciprocal creeping. Okay, so if it keeps going and doesn't integrate with the rocking, once we've gotten up on all fours, it will impact our ability to crawl. So we need it to get up, but then it needs to integrate before we can crawl. It impairs dissociation between the two lower extremities and transitioning between quadruped to sitting, to kneeling, to standing, and vice versa. So if you've got a kiddo who has a really hard time transitioning into positions, you're going to think about the STNR. And if strongly influenced by the STNR, a baby will not be able to creep. They'll bunny hop versus true creeping or crawling on the floor. Okay, they'll drag their legs behind them. It's really interesting to see. And so
what's creeping?
Creeping, okay,
Sorry.
so in a lot of the literature, creeping is what we consider crawling, okay? And so this is tricky. I changed it on the form, the parent form, or I think I did, I have to check, I meant to, because I would put creeping and none of the parents knew what it meant. So crawling is actually more like a commando crawl, right? So your arms are definitely moving, but sometimes your legs are still straight and being dragged behind you. Creeping is the actual 4-point on hands and knees crawling position. But nobody refers to it that way, or not very often. So it is too confusing for parents. So I've stopped using it. Good question. So STNR, if it persists into childhood, not just into the baby toddler phase, right? So poor standing position, stooped shoulders, bent knees, flexed hips. Prefers to sit, knee sit, or sit in a W position, right? So our W sitters, right away, we got to check this. They prefer to sit on the floor or lie on the floor or the couch. They have poor impulse control, poor upper arm strength, all right? Poor sitting position, head lowered to desk as they're working, right? That kiddo who's like this, we're always propping their head up like that. Okay, we're gonna check for STNR. Poor concentration and short-term memory. Swinging back in chair, legs wrapped around the chair. I'm sure you've all seen that, right? Where they've got their legs wrapped around the sides of the chair. That should trigger an STNR thought, right? If they're sitting with on their legs, so the chair, the legs are up on the chair, and I do this all the time. A lot of short people will do it, right? Because it's not comfortable to have our legs swinging when we don't hit the floor. So you have to check if the position is appropriate, the size of the chair. We have nice, appropriate 90-degree positions for sitting, and we're still tucking our legs underneath. You definitely want to have a look at STNR. Tendency to be farsighted, which I find super interesting. Poor hand-eye coordination, again, because you're going to look up, right? And your arms are going to try to bend. And you're going to look down as the ball's coming, and your arms are going to try to extend, or you're going to have enough tension in those movements that you won't be able to easily catch, right, or throw. Fidgeting while sitting, concentration can be super difficult. Poor attention to work, poor quality and amount of work done. They can stand up, wander around the classroom, again with the writing and the copying, right? Many errors in copying, because if you think about it, you're going to look up at the board, and what are your arms going to do? They're going to flex. And if they don't fully flex like this, you are going to be fighting really hard against that reflexive tension to do that position. But you're trying to then look down at the paper to write what you just copied, and now your arm wants to be straight, right? Crazy when you think about it. Sorry, when you look up, your arm wants to be straight, and when you look down, your arm wants to bend. Fatigue.
Do we know, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, do we know if these kids are always like, you know, they're always like copying stuff from the board, and they're somehow stopping these reflexes? They have to, because otherwise they wouldn't be functional. And how come time hasn't integrated that through that experience?
So it probably has integrated it somewhat, but it's only one movement, right? So it hasn't integrated it necessarily across all planes of movement. A lot of these kids too will do it, but these are the kids that complain of fatigue, discomfort, their hands start to hurt, right? They rub their eyes a lot. They change body position all the time, right? They can't keep their body in their seat. So they might have might have developed compensatory strategies in order to achieve their goal. Kids are really smart, right? It really is only when they cannot perform that parents and teachers start to get worried. You and I know that sometimes they are working so hard to maintain all of this stuff throughout the day that they get home and then they melt down, right? And can't do anything else. So remember that integration can be arranged, right? So some kids, you'll see them turn their head and get right in that position, right? And other kids are going to fight it, right? But they're still going to have enough tension that they need to fight it. And that's super frustrating for them. Does that make sense, Laura?
Yeah, this is like fascinating stuff. I can kind of see this applying to so many of my kiddos.
So many.
Like that, the ones that melt down.
Exactly, right? What are the causes of this? And so that's where we have to look at all the possibilities. So reflexes is just one of those tools, guys. It's just one of those puzzle pieces that we check, right? And sometimes we're integrating it, you'll read in that chapter, right? Just by playing, just by moving, because it's supposed to be through play that children integrate these, right, as babies. And then all of our fun sensory integration activities also target similar movements. Difficulty with somersaults and breaststroke, and poor focus and concentration, right? So I'm going to show you a somersault video in a little bit. It's awesome. The test for this one, is that where I'm going next? Okay, so checking for the STNR. I don't have a good video of this. I've shown a good number of you. I don't like what they do here. Okay, when I did the course, she showed us a different way, which worked really, really well. Maybe I can get Daniel. Daniel, do you want to do something for me? Would you come be a dummy for me? Okay, so Alex, Daniel, Alex is not home, otherwise I would use her. So Daniel's gonna do it with us. Hold on.
Can you take us off share?
Yep, excellent point.
Please.
Yep,
Thank you.
do it. Hold on. Perfect. Can you guys see me now? I think,
Yes.
hold on. Spotlight video. There we go. Okay, so now you can all see. Hi, look at all the baby things I have in my house. There's many of them everywhere. Okay, so Daniel, you're gonna go on your hands and knees, okay, as if you're a dog. We're gonna move this out of the way. You're gonna come a little bit more forward. Good, so I can see you. Excellent. All right, and now they need to see your legs. Put your legs straight. Are you comfortable-ish? Okay, now, we always start in this 4-point position. Daniel, can you put a little bit of space between your knees? So you're more comfortable. Good, and I want your hands a little bit more forward. Good, that's too much, so a little bit further back. So just in front of the shoulders, okay guys? Now I'm gonna take my hand, okay, and I'll show you what I'm gonna do here, and then I'll move it back. So I'm gonna hold my hand like this. I'm gonna say, Daniel, would you look at my hand? Right, so just right there, guys, we see that we moved our head up, and I'm gonna ask you to bring your forehead to touch my hand. Good, and go back to your position. I'm gonna move my hand a little bit because you're bigger than the kids I normally do this with. Can you bring your forehead to my hand? And back. So do you guys see how smooth that position is? Right, you saw him just move forward. There was no tension in the legs. So now you're gonna switch with me because I'm gonna show you all the things you're gonna look for. So Daniel's gonna give me a hand, okay? Hold on, I'm gonna tie my shirt so that you can see my body. All right, so Daniel, come down and you're gonna be the hand, okay? I'm smaller, so you'll be able to see more. So Daniel's gonna hold his hand up for me. That's really close.
I can't see.
That's okay. They need to see my body more than your hand. So as I go forward, what you might see is this, right? And the legs slide forward because they cannot straighten when our head is up, right? So that is an indication that the STNR is not yet integrated. When they come forward, you might see that the legs pop up like that, right? So again, that's the tension, so it's not integrated. The other thing you might see is maybe they go forward and then the legs drag a little bit, right? Or they go forward and the legs pop up and they're not fully. So you might see some of the movement. You might see one leg go forward versus the other. Other times you see them kind of collapse into it because they've looked down instead. So what you're really looking for is the tension, right? So the feet should be flat like this. Sometimes they'll have their feet go up like that. That's the tension again. That to me is an indicator that it's not fully integrated, right? So that's really what we're looking at. And a lot of kids will get into this position. All right, another position that you're gonna see a lot with the STNR when you're in play, if you say get down on your hands and knees, right? So you're expecting them to do this. And a bunch of the kids are gonna do this. They're gonna be in downward dog. That to me is a huge indicator of the STNR because as soon as they look down, they cannot, right, get into that position. Fun, thank you.
Does it happen sometimes too that like their hips will fall to the ground?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like they like collapse, like their hips collapse.
Yep, 100%.
And the fact that if they can't even, I guess you alluded to it with like the bear position, if they can't even get into 4-point.
That to me is a huge
That's
concern.
5, right? Okay.
Right. We'll go back to share. Thanks, Daniel. Okay, so that's STNR testing. What's my next thing? Whoop, whoop, go back, go back. Okay, so actually I have to stop share now. We're gonna go to some videos. Where are they? That's the question, right, for everybody. You find your video. So I did videos with Alex that I sent a lot of the therapists when we were doing telehealth more often. Where did I put it? I think I put it in. Oh, remember I did this and I knew where I had put them. Development.
I know where mine are if you want me to share, if there's a way
That
for me
would
to
be
share
good.
screen.
Yeah. I think I
Is there a
can.
way?
Oh, hold on. Therapy videos. I'm good. I found them.
Okay, cool.
Phew. Because I have them all labeled too so that I can see them. So
Okay.
on, and actually I should go back to share screen for a second so you guys can see that sheet, right? So, right, that's the checking. Here are the rhythmic movements, okay, that the STNR integration movements. I find these two right here quite difficult with a lot of the kids that we work with. Some of your older kids might be able to do it, okay? I tend to do these four here, right? The ones I'm going to show you in video today is here and here. Okay, so I'm going to show you the cat arches and the STNR rocking. The other ones I don't have videos for, but I can possibly show you in the future, or you can ask me about it, or one of the other therapists who's trained, like Erin or Megan, like we can show you too. Okay. The exercises with the STNR, also it's important to remember, and often I'll print this out, I'll circle the exercises that we're doing, or I'll highlight them, and then at the top I will just write right on the photocopy, right? We do this 1 time a day, and we want to do 1 minute each activity. Okay, and it's really important that we find the rhythm. That's what we're looking for, right? Rhythmic movement. And a lot of our kids struggle with the rhythm because they are not comfortable in these positions. So the rhythm is half the battle. The only one that you do a little differently is the half push-ups, right? You can see it's just a mini push-up. They do 4 of those. All right, that's it. Slow and controlled 4 push-ups. Okay. A lot of our kids with an STNR cannot do a push-up. It is not in their abilities. So I'll show you guys the cat and cow position. Let me open that one.
You said you do 4 of them, as in like, wait, floor or 4?
Just 4, like 4, like they'll be in the
Okay.
push-up position, right? And then they go down, just 4 times. These don't take very long, which is why they're a nice activity to provide. Oh, hold on, it's just opening. Oh, it's got to download, come on. These are the ones that I did not prepare today. Let me see if I have a better one to show you while we're going. Does anybody have any questions about the STNR so far?
Yeah, Stephanie, so you said we ways to do 4 movements with 4 of the exercises. Did I understand this properly?
So when we look at the, hold on, I don't think I'm sharing the thing with you guys. Okay. Hold on. Which one is this? Okay. Can you guys see the PowerPoint? Is that what you're seeing?
Yep.
Perfect. So the cat arches, I do that for 1 minute each day.
Okay.
The longitudinal rocking, 1 minute each day. And the STNR rocking, 1 minute each day. The push-up, I will do only 4 push-ups. So I don't do a full minute of push-ups. I just do 4 little mini push-ups. I call them mini push-ups because I don't want them to be confused. Like you're not going all the way down and you're on your hands and knees. So it's a very basic push-up. Okay, and then I will share this one. So this is Alex and I. Turn the volume down so you can see. So all of the reflex integration stuff should be done on the floor, and it shouldn't be done on a bed or a mattress or anything like that. You want to do it on a yoga mat, a gym mat, or a carpet, right? So it's not a super hard like cement floor or anything, but it has to have that foundation. So I'm doing it here on a yoga mat. I've got Alex set up hands and knees, right? Under her hips, under her shoulders. So that's the most important thing. And you'll see there's a bit of tension here in her ankles, okay? And look at that interesting roll up to the side as she's going. But she has like hyper lax everything, right? And you can see it, but well, she slides back. So I want her, when her head goes up, I want to see this movement here. And then I want her ribcage to pop up when she looks down. But she shouldn't have so much movement in her hips, right? And you'll see kids do a full sway, right? She also is working hard to not lock her elbows. Okay, so I'll show you guys one more time so you can see the movement. It's a yoga move, everybody. You've all done it in yoga classes, right? And ideally, we could do breath. Often what you'll do, see, I have adjusted her hands too to make sure that she's open and pushing through the palms, just like in yoga, because you'll often see the hands squish in together. Okay, and there was almost too much and she started sliding back, so she was compensating. Same thing, sliding right back. And so you'll use your hands to help a child get into the position. And I'm going to show you a video of how this can be really hard for a kid. Okay. So that's this one. And then I'll show you a really cool video that I did with one of my kiddos. Share the screen. Okay. Can you guys see the video? It's a standing upright video. I think you can probably see both of them, right? I should close that one. Okay. Do you see the video?
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So look how hard we're working here. Now I've put this on her legs. Oh no, this is the wrong one. This is not that one. I'm going to show you STNR rocking. Who did it? Somebody else did a nice video. Hold on, I have to stop sharing. Okay, I couldn't find the video today, so I will see if I can find it for next time. I'll show you the other one of Alex. The other exercise is the STNR rocking, which is the other video I'm going to show you. So this is what it is meant to look like, okay? We start in the same position. What I sometimes do is move the hands a little bit forward again. You can see that they're slightly behind her shoulders, which is not what we want. It'll make it a little bit harder. So usually I have it either right under or a little bit behind. And I want her to rock back. So I'm looking for a nice straight back. I'm looking for her bum to touch her heels. And I want her head to be neutral, not tucked under, right? So sometimes you're going to have a visual here for the kids to look at, right? And you'll see there's still some rounding in her spine, okay? But it's the rhythm that we're looking for. So I want her to be rocking back and forth, up and down, up and down. Kids really like this one. For some of your younger kids, to encourage them, I have definitely made fart noises when they hit the bottom. I have done everything in order to make it hilarious so they do the full minute. Fart noises are very popular. If you see that we're having a hard time getting the bottom all the way down, put a pillow. Put something there to allow them to get that input. Okay, does that make sense? And so I'll show you now the one of my kiddo who couldn't do it very well, right? Because we've got tons of motor stuff going on here, okay? But I'm using myself and mom. Like she can't even keep her head is just down, and you can see by her head being down, right? Everything collapses, but she has to put her head down in order to go in that position. Isn't that interesting, right? And we're working hard, right? You can see the tension in the ankles, which is why we've put this here. It also encouraged her to keep her feet together and not moving and straightening out. They come right up, and mom had to hold her hands. Otherwise we could not get into that position. And so what we were doing is going down and then coming up for a kiss from mom. Okay, anything we could do to get the movements going. And there we got a nice rhythm. Look at that, it's beautiful. And I'm just trying to keep her body in a line. I still have lots of compensation in the legs and in the arms, but at least we're getting the movement, okay? And this isn't the first time we've done this, by the way. We've been practicing this for a while. All right, go, go, go. We're trying, and I'm trying to get her feet.
So Steph, the top of your feet should be flat on the mat, eh?
Exactly. Right? Because we shouldn't be tense in this position. We should be relaxed. And she's like, that is hard work, man.
So, Stephanie?
Yes.
I have a quick question. When we're doing that rhythmic motion, do we want the head to be down or not?
No, we want it to be neutral, right? So when we had that video of Alex doing it, I think, I still have it open. I can show you. Okay, so we want the head in a neutral position.
Because if it's retained,
or down, it's exactly.
Yeah,
so, right? So if we're looking down, our arms want to be bent and our legs want to be straight. Right? And when we're looking up, exactly. And so
so we want it.
Often head movements compensate.
So like in that one, we're really looking mostly at the head, right? Like where the position of the head is.
In the other video, or just in this movement overall?
Like no, in this movement overall.
In this movement, the head position is super important, but you want to make sure the legs stay down, right? And that you don't have tension in the ankles. You want to make sure that there's no hyperextension of the elbows. You will see that fairly often with these kids. If you have a hard time keeping the elbows from hyperextending, right, with the hands like this, turn the hands in a little bit like this.
Yeah.
Right? It will make it harder to hyperextend. It'll be easier to keep it bent, right? It's a really cool trick.
Yeah. Thank you.
Then,
So, Steph, sorry, I'm going to jump
Yeah.
in again. Better? I'm just thinking when they wear shoes, I guess it kind of props their feet up, right? Like,
Yeah.
is it easier to do with shoes off?
yes, 100% easier with shoes off.
Okay.
Shoes are tricky, right? We need them to be outside and do stuff. But in little kids, and you think about babies, right? They're not wearing shoes when they do these positions. So they're very malleable and flexible, and that's kind of what we're looking for. Tension is our enemy in a lot of ways, right? Unless it's being used as a specific strategy in order to achieve body positions. But often that tension will impact our ability to functionally do a movement, right? Tension doesn't feel good, and it fatigues over a long period of time.
Thank you.
That was a good question too. Where'd my PowerPoint go?
Because
Perfect.
they're not even wearing shoes in the clinic, but like I'm thinking the school visit I did today, and they were all wearing shoes. I didn't even think of.
No, but ironically, if you're doing the bot or the movement ABC, for most of the activities, they should be wearing their shoes.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Sorry, I meant for the reflex test.
Exactly, for the reflex testing. And cool, right? So now if you think about it, and probably it would only be like very, very rare for it to impact that much, right? But if you saw it and you didn't see any other signs, the only sign that you saw was that their feet weren't flat, okay, then maybe we need to retest. But the other kids, you're almost guaranteed to see other signs that there is that tension, that inability to move through that pattern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
No problem. And then I've seen our testing, and then we get to the TLR. But I'm already at 8:45. I don't know how we go through this so quickly. I think we can do the TLR quick, and then we can start with exercises and games and activities that are not the rhythmic movements afterwards. So the TLI is your tonic labyrinthine reflex, right? So these are the 3 tonic neck reflexes. So onset is birth, right? So you can see this is a very tiny baby being held in one hand, right? Integration is 6 months. Stimulus, change of the orientation of the head in space, position of the head in relation to gravity while prone, on belly, or supine. Response in prone, okay, flexor tone will predominate with arms flexed by the child's chest. So do you see this is the prone? And literally it's called TLR prone, right? So we see that flexor come in. In supine extension, so if you turn a baby over onto their back, you will often see their arms and their legs go out into a more extensor tone, okay? The importance, this allows a baby's posture to adapt to that of the head. Significance in early development if persists. This is crazy, okay? So it'll interfere with the movement that requires smooth grading of flexor and extensor muscles. This is all that a baby is doing at first, guys. They have to be able to transition from flexion to extension and then be able to use them together. Otherwise, they cannot get into an upright position against gravity. In supine, a child will have compromised ability to raise head up against gravity. So our kids who cannot do tummy time, right? This is a nice indicator that we have to check the TLR for our little guys. This will affect anti-gravity control for movements such as bringing feet and hands together and rolling. In prone, again, right, child will have compromised ability to raise their head, extend spine, and bear weight on their elbows. This in turn will limit time spent on his or her tummy for crawling and developing the movement in their pelvis and shoulders that sets the stage for moving in and out of various body positions, sitting to stand, for example. Without this ability, the body will be without options for exploring. This will affect social and cognitive gains. You see this a lot in CP. You will see this a lot in children with, with this reflex, obviously, but a lot of kids who have motor delays didn't spend a lot of time in prone. They cry. And it is so hard to make your baby stay in a position where they're screaming and crying and clearly miserable, okay? Not only because it makes everybody uncomfortable to see a baby cry, as a mother who is currently full of hormones, you can't do it. You can't do it. The hormones make you crazy, and the baby crying makes you even more crazy. So it is so hard, even though we will encourage, push through it, try for a little bit. So what we need to do is figure out what kind of movements we can do to help this kid integrate those reflexes. So in school-age children, right, we're going to see poor posture with either stooping or arching of the body backwards, easily fatigued, toe walking, right? Super interesting. We've got a lot of toe walkers that come through our doors. Balance and coordination challenges. It is so hard to balance when your head and your body do not do the same thing. or do the same thing, sorry, because you have to be able to separate your body movements from your head movements. Poor spatial awareness, including personal space. These kids do a lot of falling, right? Our kids who fall out of chairs, we want to talk about this. Difficulties judging distance, speed, or depth perception. So again, those are vestibular-based skills. Fear of heights, right? Imagine if we're looking up and looking down and we cannot control our body properly, heights are going to be very scary. Difficulties arranging work on paper, problems with spatial concepts in math, and poor short-term memory. And so this is that sheet again, right? Checking for the TLR. This one you try to do it on a hard floor, but near a mat if it's a child that you think really will fall down. Okay, the child is going to stand with their feet together on a soft surface, bend their head forward. If they can keep their balance, you can then ask them to do it closing their eyes. So literally you want them to bend forward. You're looking for this. If the reflex is active, right, they could be dizzy. They could get completely disoriented in this movement, which is crazy because all they're doing is this in standing, right? The wobbling is what we see most often, okay? Or the tension in the neck or the shoulders. Some kids will do it super fast, okay, in an attempt to not fall over. It's amazing. They don't slowly move their head down. They will go super fast and they fix all of their muscles and tension. What you'll see though, when they go down like this, and sometimes you'll see them kind of rock forward, or you'll see them come onto their toes, right? As their whole body is trying to fall forward towards their head, right? That's a huge indicator that it's still active. If we're working TLR prone is what we're checking, right? So it's the same stance. And now I'm going to tell the child, okay, you go from neutral and I want you guys to look up. And you just want them to do a nice slow move to look up. And then you can have them come and look back down, right? That's what you're looking for. Smooth and easy movements. So those kids who are very saccadic, right? They move very quickly to get into the positions, or you're going to see them go back and then you'll see them kind of rock back, right? Or they rock up onto their heels as opposed to getting onto their toes, okay? Those kind of body shifts show that their body can't be stable when their head is moving up and down, which is linked to the TLR, right? The TLR means that your body follows the movement. When you flex forward, everything flexes in, and when you extend out, everything extends out. So if you think about balance, this is huge. So our kids who struggle with balance, we definitely want to check in the TLR. A cool one that you will sometimes see without even realizing it is in the vestibular preparation activities, you know, the catch a falling star where you have to pass the ball above the head and through the legs, right? A lot of kids, what you see is when they go down to pass it through the legs and then they fall forward, right? And catch themselves with their hands. That's the TLR.
Yes, all the time.
All the time. That's the TLR, right?
Whoa.
So by doing that activity, you're actually working on integrating the TLR reflex. Cool. You're also working on vestibular stimulation and balance and dissociation, right? Head from the body, which is based on the TLR. This is just the reflex piece to that activity, right? And it's the same. Sometimes you'll see them coming up to pass the ball, right? And they start swaying backwards, or they fixate their head like this and just reach their head up, right? So that for me is curiosity. Is it vestibular, that they can't turn their head up? Or is it TLR? Because when they go up like this, they're going to lose their balance. Which one is it? Sometimes it could be both, just to make our lives fun, right? So it's that curiosity. Whenever you see something that looks weird, be curious about it. Oh, that's not expected. That wasn't supposed to happen. What could have been one of the reasons for it? And when we look at some of the, right, go ahead.
If you have a kiddo that has, let's say, STNR, ATNR, and the atomic labyrinth reflex, which one do you tackle first? Does one inhibit the other more?
So if we go back, right, TLR is often associated with these other movements, right? The STNR is often associated with TLR and ATNR. I will usually pick the easiest exercise for the child to do. So if I think that all of these are active, and it happens, when I've done the checking, right, to see, some of them will be much more subtle than the other ones, right? So the check will show me that maybe that reflex is already partially integrated. So maybe they just have a slight movement in the TLR, but in the STNR, the legs are completely locked and come forward. They're going to have an easier time integrating the TLR. So I'm going to want to integrate that one first. Some other people will say, well, we should do it developmentally, right? So we should look at which one developmentally should be integrated first, right? And if we looked at the developmental timeline, it was ATNR, STNI. And if you look at this one, This is at 6 months, right? So ATNR, TLR, STNR. Does that make sense? But
Yeah.
I find it's easier to do based on the effort required for the exercises, because a child is going to be more apt to do the stuff that is easier. And if we integrate it and then I move on to doing another exercise like STNR, I've already integrated the TLR, so I have less resistance from the other reflex. So maybe the STNR one will now be easier as well. Sorry, that's my battery on my camera running low from my, my baby camera. And then, yeah, so basically the testing was that one. The integration exercises. So the one that I do the most often is the isometric pressure. Okay, and this one is something I could always show you in person. Adults or teenagers can do it for themselves, but basically you are going to have them in prone and supine and basically provide pressure against the movement that they're trying to do. So you can see right here, right, that she's in prone, okay? And what I want her to do in prone is lift up her head, because remember, that's the movement when we're standing, when we extend our head like this. But I provide isometric pressure against it and they push up against it, right? Just a slight pressure and then they relax. Did you forget keys? Oh, good. Sorry, you left keys. Hard to go anywhere. If they're in supine and they're going into flexion with their head, right, you're going to provide a little bit of pressure so that you have to push against it, that isometric pressure. And other activities like the catch a falling star. Okay, those are the ones I like better. A lot of these are trickier for them to do at home. And then I have a bunch of activities that we can do, but we're going to run out of time. So I'm going to cover all of those activities next time. And next time, hopefully we'll also have time to do the Moro and the fear paralysis, because we're already hitting 9 o'clock and everybody's brains are going to be mush, mine included, by the way. Any questions on what we covered today? Because that was a lot of stuff.
No, all good, thank you.
Okay, good. Perfect. So next week, we'll keep going on the reflexes. If you guys think of other questions, don't hesitate to let me know. Send me a quick email. We'll answer them next time. And I'll try to send an email with all of these documents later today or most probably tomorrow, but maybe now if I remember. Sound good?
Thank you.
Super.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. That was great. Have a good
Yeah,
night.
it was super interesting.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.